Hi everyone, I'm back and I'm doing a new tutorial today on creating an infinite floor type effect. We're not actually creating an infinite floor, it's more kind of a trick, and it gets you a render like this where you can kind of see that the object's grounded and you can see some kind of soft shadows there. And the surrounding scene just seems to go on forever. There's no walls, there's no horizon, anything like that. It's really simple to do in Cheetah, so we're going to have a go now. I'll just show you one more thing before we get going. I quickly rendered a movie this weekend. This is my new logo, and I'm using the same technique. Just show you that now. So I quickly animated it. Just a quick spin around. My machine's having a few problems there, but you get the idea. So let's have a go at that. It's pretty easy. So I'm in Cheetah. I've got an object already on my scene. You can have whatever you want there. I'm going to do my logo again, and in fact, let me delete that material. We'll start fresh there. Okay, so the first thing you're going to need is some kind of floor, and I generally tend to go for a disc. So drop a disc on your scene, scale that up until it's roughly big enough to kind of hold your shadows. It really depends on the angle. We'll go for something, let's go for something like that today. That looks kind of big enough. I wouldn't worry too much about that at this stage because we can scale that up. And that is the entire floor. We don't really need anything else. What I'm going to do just quickly is remove the background. This is another one that a lot of newcomers to Cheetah ask. They want to render out with no background on. The way you do that is you go into your camera object in the object browser down here, and you scroll down until you can see the background, pick the color, and I'll just move that into the middle here. So we've got black and we've got the opacity at 100%. You just simply drag that opacity to 0 and it will just render out your objects in the scene. No background or nothing. So that's great. If you save out as a TIFF, you get your transparent background, bring that into Photoshop, overlay that, do whatever you're going to do with that. That's cool. Okay, so we've got our floor and we've got our object. What we need to do now is create our shadow material, and that's actually a default material. It's under material options, it's in special, and it's called shadow matte. So we got that shadow matte there, and what that does is it literally just catches shadows from objects. There's nothing else going on, the rest of it's transparent. So we throw that onto our disc or our floor. I might just call that floor. It's not a complicated scene, but it'll help if I spell it right. So we've got our floor, it's got our shadow material, we've got our object. We could probably do it, put in a material on that. I'm just going to create a new material very quickly. Let's leave it. No, let's have a, I don't know, let's try some kind of green colour, something like that. So give that a little bit of reflection, not much, a really tiny amount of reflection there. And we'll put the Fresnel option on just to get, so we can see our little preview down here. We've kind of got some slight reflections in there. And the other thing now is we just need to set up our lighting. We're just using the camera light at the moment, which is pretty rubbish by default. So let's add a radiosity tag, and we're going to leave that as it is, ambient occlusion. I'm happy with all the intensity and samples for now. It may be that when we render it we might change something there. Okay, we forgot to assign our material to our object, so I'm going to do that. Unfortunately my object is made up of a bunch of different objects at the moment, which isn't ideal, but it kind of does the job. So we've got our material on, we've set our camera up. I'm just going to give that a quick render now. So you can see we're kind of getting the shadows a little bit. I'm hoping you can see this anyway. I should probably do this a little bit bigger so you can see. I'm just going to change the output settings there. So I'm going to double my camera output, and that'll do, 180. So we've got all our floor in, that's going to render a bit bigger. I'll just do a quick render now so you can see all the other renders I've been doing recently there. I go a little bit render crazy sometimes. So I was rendering on my quite slow machine, But again, we're kind of seeing what's going on there. Again, you can see that the shadow is still visible at the edges of the disc. Now, you're probably going to immediately think, just scale the disc up to handle that. That's not actually the best way in this instance. What we need to do is click on our shadow map material and change the white point. And I just usually move it down in increments of 0.1 until I get somewhere near where I want it to be. So I'll give that another render now I've changed it. We should see some difference. And we can. Yeah, and you can see now we're not hitting the edges and we're getting a kind of a more realistic result. We've got that on our transparent background, so if you save that out as a TIFF now, it would just be the logo and the shadow. And the shadow would just, it's just the dark colours, it's transparent as well, so that overlays perfectly when you get it in Photoshop. I think what we're going to need to do now is I'm going to show you another trick. So I'm going to turn that transparent background off and I'm going to put something else in place. What I like to do is I'm going to jump into Photoshop now. Let's get rid of that. I'm just going to do this pretty small. I'll do it 800, 600, it should fit okay anyway. I like to just use a Photoshop file for a background or a JPEG or something, and I like to set that on a radial gradient. So I've got my radial gradient selected there, and what I do, I've got it set to reverse, so that's cool. I just create quite a kind of subtle gradient that fades the edges out. So we've got white in the middle, or we've got a darker, slightly darker grey on the outside. It's just really subtle. I mean, you can do this with any colour at all. I use this technique a lot and use it on some of the renders you've seen before. Just going to save that, and we'll save that as, just save that as background for now. Yep, that's all cool. Close that. I'm going to load that in. So let's load that background in. There it is, right there. And it pops that in, so you can see it's clipping at the edges that are not included in the render. That's cool. So we're going to give that another render now. Here comes our background. Looking quite good. So there you can see we've got a back. It looks a little bit more realistic now with those fade into grey on those edges. Another thing we can do, if you've got any kind of reflection going on your material, we can add an HDRI. This may change the lighting a little bit, so just be warned. You may need to adjust that white point again. So I always end up using the default ones that come with Cheetah, so I just type Pano in. I think we'll use the Old Town one on this. So let's open the Old Town up. Uncheck background, we don't want that to appear in the background. And let's hit the render on that. Now, as I said, this may change the lighting, so we may need to adjust our white point. Let's find out. So you can already see instantly coming in, we've got the reflections are a lot nicer on this one. And because it's given us more lighting, we could probably afford to push the white point up a little bit. You can just play around with that. It's working all right at the moment, but we could probably push that a little bit further. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to try 1.1 on this. Give it another render. That's much better. I mean, we can arguably keep going further, but I'm pretty happy with that. And you can see there's no horizon there, no walls, no nothing, and that'll just go on forever. And in fact, let's change the angle and do another render. Let's try something like that. So you can see the horizon of our actual Cheetah documents there, but our floor doesn't stretch to that. Give that another render. While I wait for my machine, this is a technique I use a lot because a lot of the renders I do are kind of product style shots, and I like to have some kind of grounding, some kind of shadow going on, and I think that does a really good job of it, and it does it very quickly as well. I think we're going to leave that for now. That'll do for this tutorial, so I hope you learned something there. Thanks for watching, and if you do anything cool, post it in the forum, drop me an email, leave a comment, anything like that. That's great. Okay guys, have fun. Bye.